But I'm Belinda, I'm an alcoholic. It's always a privilege and honor to do anything in service in Alcoholics Anonymous. You know, this morning I'm thinking, I did some prayer and meditation, and I think a few times, every now and then I think, well, I wonder what I'm going to talk about. And I'm like, I don't know. And I continue doing what I was doing. A little while later, same question, I don't know. But I'm grateful for that, right? So I'm going to try to get up here and just let the Spirit speak in and through me, and it's always different, so I really don't know. So I'm curious myself. Thank you, Casey, for the beautiful introduction. And it's just, I can't even describe what happens to be able to help other alcoholics and form relationships with them, and to be able to, that's, the God in me can see the God in you, and then just spiritually it helps me grow, right? Jessica has been wonderful over here. Like, she's contacted me, she stayed in touch with me, let me know where to be, when to be. They've spoiled me rotten. The committee has done a great job. So thank y'all. When I came into Alcoholics Anonymous, I didn't come here for healing and transformation. I didn't come here to form intimate relationships. Certainly didn't come here to try to help other people. But stuff started happening to me, not by me. But I grew up in an alcoholic home, I thought I knew what it meant to be alcoholic. I thought you had to drink every day, and you had to have fights, and you had to be full of fear, and there was just crazy stuff that happened in the household. It was that uncertainty, and I never knew what was going to happen. And I started from a young age learning to be the chameleon. I would walk in a room, I'd look and facial expressions, see what was going on, the tone of voice, and I thought I knew what I needed to do in order to try to be okay, to avoid confrontation, to avoid anything. Let me just kind of hide out and stay in the corner. With growing up in an alcoholic home, it did create a lot of fear to me, and a lot of stuff happened in that home that, no children deserve. But as soon, my mom started going to Al-Anon in 1967. I was 3 years old, and she's still alive and been an active member since then. And she's done a lot of service. She's been a great inspiration, and it's been a beautiful thing to watch her. And I know some of you know her very well. In fact, I'm looking at Nancy, and Nancy and I went to Alateen together in the 70s. And I'm thankful for that too, because what I learned in Alateen is I don't remember the steps, I don't remember the solution or anything like that, but what I learned was there were other children going through some of the same things that I was going through, right? And there was a shared camaraderie. And then later I learned to drink with those friends. It was just great. We had a good time. But from my first memory of my drink, I was 12 years old, drinking with the cousins. They were drinking. I didn't plan to drink, but they passed a bottle. I drank. I overshot the mark. I didn't mean for the little boy to suck a hickey on my neck. That was way against my morals and values. Dad had been in the Air Force for 22 years, and that sounded like a big ass whipping to me. And that next morning, it was a foggy night. I think I had moments of blacking out and coming to, and blacking out and coming to. But that next morning, I'm trying to put makeup on that hickey to cover it up, and then I started lying, right? Because I grew up in that home lying, like, oh, what is that? Did y'all have a party last night? Like, there's a whole trash can of beer cans. I'm like, oh, yes, We didn't have no party. It was my dad's beer. But I started learning to lie about drinking, not only from the family disease, but from my own. And basically, I spent 32 years of my life trying to control and enjoy my drinking. I wasn't it was fun at first, man. I had a great time. Oh, look, there's one shoe. There's another. I had a great time drinking. Lots of, we drank young, and my first consequences was getting suspended because we decided to drink more than, I drank one morning before school. God forbid people were doing their drugs. I wasn't going to do any drugs. But I'll go ahead and drink more than I thought I would or intended to. I didn't mean to get so messed up that I could barely make it to my locker, and I was the first one to get caught and hauled me in and suspended me. And, I used to get some severe beatings from my dad, but for some reason when I came home and he heard that I was drinking at school, he seemed to not be mad. You know, he seemed to understand. I got punished and stuff, but by this time he was sober. You know, and other consequences, young, like youth group I went to with those Alateens, drank, got caught, slap on the hand, and so on. I blew up marriages, I blew up friendships, I blew up jobs. I mean, I can go on and give thousands and thousands when you drink for 32 years. I remember just one time, though. One time I remember going to a business function. I'd go to it weekly, and the week before I was like, man, I can't drink that much. I mean, I am just not available. I mean, I'm slurring if I drink so much, I'm just going to have 2. And I remember it like it was yesterday. I remember just having 2 that night. And I was miserable. I was looking for some other stuff that I was trying to incorporate in my drinking, didn't find any. Now, I can't tell you what I did when I left. I don't know if I drank more. I can't imagine that I didn't. But like that particular time, I remember how miserable I was, because if I was enjoying it, I wasn't controlling it. If I was controlling it, I wasn't enjoying it. The last 8 years of my drinking, I didn't draw a sober breath. I passed out drunk and loaded, and yes, I added all kind of other drugs to my alcoholism. I find if you do this, you can drink more. I think Bob mentioned it last night, right? You can make the party go on a little bit longer. You do this in the morning, your hangovers aren't so bad. And I try to find the right combination just to try to feel the ick that I had going on the inside. I just wanted it to go away. I wanted it to slow my mind down that was constantly talking to me, constantly, about you piece of crap. I can't believe you did that. You know better. Oh, look, she's prettier than me, smarter than me, younger than me. Even though when I was young, softball and rodeo and gymnastics and all those things gave me a sense of ease and comfort. And then when I started incorporating alcohol, it did the same for me. At the end, I always, I'm hanging out with people and my mind saying, oh, they're way worse than me. Y'all had any way worse than you? I mean, that's just what I'm thinking, right? Before I got sober, though, I said, you know what, if I could just get off that, well, I'm just going to say the word, if I could just get off that crack, life is going to be okay. I mean, really, I thought that was my problem. If I just stopped that, it would be great. I was totally, completely, 100% delusional to my drinking, to my alcoholism. If there was a time many years before, maybe a decade before, that I would tell myself, or tell you actually, yeah, I'm alcoholic. I just meant, I thought that meant I can drink more than you, and I kind of prided myself on that. Truth was, even though I went to Alateen, I dad alcoholic. I had no idea what it meant to be alcoholic. I was comparing it to his drinking every day. And I swore I wasn't going to be an alcoholic like him. And so the delusion in my mind, it's real clear in the big book, man. It talks a lot about delusion. I really had no idea. But what happened to me is I end up in a bed, and here's one of the things I'm going to say that I really don't want to say. I ended up sitting in a bed, and I'm with the ex-husband who is living in the master bedroom, and my boyfriend, and him and I are living in the guest bedroom. That's the depths of my selfishness, self-centeredness. But I'm begging these 2 guys to blow my head off and put me out of my misery. Because I had went to jail, and I said, I got to quit smoking that stuff. That's why I went to jail. If I can't quit smoking that stuff, I'm going to go to AA. I went to one AA meeting, loaded on the prescription. I didn't drink that day, though. Well, that day, I don't know what I did that night. I'm sure I drank. And AA didn't work for me that day. And at one point, I said, if AA doesn't work, I'll go to treatment. Now, I didn't plan on getting sober, right? When I begged those 2 guys to blow my head off, next thing you know, I'm calling my little mommy and daddy, and I'm asking them to come pick me up, telling them that I need help. Because a few months before, Mom came to me and said, I'm really concerned about your drinking, Belinda. I'm like, what are you talking about? I hardly drink at all, and I meant it with every fiber of me. I hardly drink at all, Mom. And then she said those words, well, Belinda, why don't you pray and ask God? And I wanted to throw up. Because if there, like the book called, I bristled with antagonism, right? If there is a God, he's not going to want to have anything to do with me. So they picked me up. In fact, I came to Baton Rouge to detox. Detox isn't a requirement, but I certainly needed some medical detox. I was in one of those situations to where if I tried to quit on my own, I could have died. I didn't intend on getting sober. I had a plan, a good plan, by the way. I'm always going to come up with a good plan. I'm never coming up with a bad plan. Now, it might turn out to be a bad plan, but so I had a plan. I'm going to go to detox because I didn't want to go through the withdrawals again. I'm going to let them medically detox me. I'm going to get out. I'm going to not smoke that stuff. I'm going to take my prescription pain medicine as prescribed, right? I'm going to manage that. And it never crossed my mind anything what to do about alcohol. I didn't think about quitting or trying to change it or control it or any of that, but that was my plan. And what I know now that I didn't know then is stuff started happening to me, not by me. I show up in that detox facility, and the first night that I'm there, a group of members of Alcoholics Anonymous from Baton Rouge came in. And they had their little blue books. Whoop-de-doo, I had 2. Why 2, I don't know, but I brought 2. I think my dad gave one of my exes one. I don't know where the other one came from. But for whatever reason, I knew there was a solution in there for me. The only thing I remember about that was one guy. He said he had just gotten out of the treatment the week before, and he had 5 weeks of sobriety. 5 weeks. Now, it took me a little, I don't know how long, months or years, for me to look back. A lot of this stuff is to look back, but that's the guy who saved my life. That's the guy. Because from the moment I took my first drink to the moment I took my last drink, I had not put 5 weeks of not drinking during that 32 years. I've been honored to serve as in a few positions, but one of them was Area 27 Treatment Committee Chair. And when I was serving you in that capacity, one of the questions I got asked often is, how much time do you have to carry a message into a treatment facility? The first answer I give them is, well, it depends on what the treatment facility will allow. But I'm so grateful that members of Alcoholics Anonymous didn't tell that guy that you have to have 6 months or a year to go carry a message into that detox facility, because I may not be your speaker tonight. I didn't hear the other people that had more sobriety than he did. So as I'm there, I didn't intend to go to treatment. I had I had a plan, but next thing you know, I'm headed off to treatment. Mommy and Daddy come pick me up again, bring me to a little Marksville. I heard somebody's here from Marksville. Brought me to Marksville, and I went to a treatment center, and they just so happened to sit in class. Monday through Friday, 8 to 4, and they literally brought you through the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, the first 103 pages. And during the time that you're there, they're actually bringing it to you, through it twice, word by word, line by line, filling out definitions. We had homework every night. And I don't know what I was feeling then. I really don't. I just did the stuff they asked me to do. I didn't expect to get anything out of it. I don't know what the plan was. There was just something that was happening to me, not by me. I didn't feel that. Like, I think about my first experience in treatment. It's like, oh God, the women, were in there, everybody's gossiping, and that was, I think, my first personality change. I realized in there is that I don't want to live life like that, and I tried to make it a point not to talk about the other women there. And I think for me, that GOD originally stood for Good Orderly Direction. I'm grateful they taught me stuff like get a sponsor, go to meetings, and work the steps. I didn't intend to get out and go to a sober living house, and next thing you know, I'm 44 years old, living in a sober living house. And my sobriety date's November 18th of 2008. But, I started going to meetings. I got a sponsor. I got a home group also, and I worked the steps. By the way, I do have a home group. It's in Kenner, Louisiana. We meet Tuesday night at 6. It's a literature study meeting. We're either going to do the big book or the 12 and 12. We're currently in the big book, so if you're ever in the area, please come by. It's in its adolescent stage. It's so fun. It teaches me a lot right now. Anyway, so I went to this treatment center, got out. I don't have that experience of like not feeling like I fit in. I don't know if it was ego or not, but man, I could talk to the wall. I think what happened to me was that I was so far removed from my emotions, right? I had buried stuff, I had minimized stuff, because there's a lot of stuff that happened to me. It didn't make me an alcoholic, but being molested by your father and sexually abusive relationships for, more than a decade, physically abusive relationships. The only reason I mention that is because I found the solution to dealing with that. Alcohol. Alcohol worked for a long time until it didn't. So I started going to meetings. I got a home group, and I'm meeting people. There were two guys that had gotten sober. I used to party with them, and one was sober 5 years, and one was sober a year and a half. And of course, they were way worse than me, right? And so I'm grateful I at least had them, but I always felt like I fit in from that moment. But what I know is I watch a lot of people come in here that are very uncomfortable, and they don't feel like they fit in, and they want to sit in the back, and they duck out as soon as possible. Those are the people we should be looking for. There's a great poem that Sam Shoemaker wrote, and it's basically, I always want to remember, I got to stand by the door, because those are the people I want to watch that are ducking out. I want to grab them. But sometimes we get so consumed. Let me take that we out. I'd like to leave it in because I think I'm right, but I'm just going to go to my experience. Sometimes I get so consumed with meeting people that I haven't seen in a while and having a good time with them that I miss it. I miss it. The big book says we meet frequently so that the newcomer can find the fellowship they seek. Of course, I didn't set my timer, but good thing I'll watch the time. That's why we meet. My purpose here is to find those people. Well, my purpose here is to try to be awake to maybe anyone, whether they're new or have long-term sobriety, that maybe God will reveal to me that's the person I need to talk to. So anyway, I go into the meetings. I feel like I fit in. I immediately got a service position in that home group. I had a good time. I started finding the fellowship. I got a sponsor pretty, quickly, and then my niece died when I was like 60 days sober. And I was out of treatment, and so it was 2 days before I was supposed to meet that sponsor, so I called and canceled with her. But my niece was 27 years old, the most beautiful blue eyes you've ever seen, and she drank like I did, and she did drugs like I did, and she passed out in the car like I had seen her many, many times. And her friends left her in there, and it just so happened to be 22 degrees in South Louisiana. And she froze to death. And I remember when my dad called me to tell me about that, I think he was concerned that this might send me over the edge. But all that did was put a fire in me to try to stay sober, to help other people so they didn't die like her. So anyway, I came up with a better plan. That first sponsor I asked that I hadn't met yet, because Mom said try to ask her. I came up with a better plan. She's too old. I asked somebody else. And I worked with her for about a month, and she was too soft, so I asked somebody else. And she was, I don't know, she gossiped too much. And so I was like, So I went back to the old lady. She always knew I called her an old lady. And so I had her for about 15 and a half years, and she died with 53 years sober almost a year ago. But I'm so grateful that she was able to share and lead and guide from a place of love. I'm so grateful that she was passionate about Alcoholics Anonymous, helping other people. I mean, there was even times like when I was still living in Lafayette with her, she'd say, Belinda, I need a newcomer. I was able to go to more meetings than her. I found a newcomer. She always had a newcomer. She always had a newcomer. She died 92 years old. And the newest newcomer at that time was a year. She had, but other than that, I always had a newcomer. So I'm so grateful that God put her in my life. She showed me. She loved me. So I'm grateful she went through the steps. She reminded me that treatment's treatment. This is Alcoholics Anonymous, because I came out of treatment with a bunch of beliefs from treatment. And she corrected me, and she showed me in the literature of Alcoholics Anonymous what it says, and she shared her experience with me. But I'm going to say in treatment, I'm going to run through it real quick. I didn't realize, and I'm so grateful that it described out of the big book that I'm powerless over alcohol. Because when I put alcohol in my body, I can't control the amount I take. It's repeated over and over and over, and the doctor calls it an allergy. But I had a mind that is insane around alcohol. I think I can drink successfully. I'm in a delusion that it's not a problem, and so on, right? So I'm powerless, and no human power, because my mommy and daddy would have stopped drinking for me. Heck, I would have done it. My life is unmanageable. Yes, the outside stuff was crap when I got sober. I had nothing. I still had the house. Truck wasn't running. The house was tore up. I punched every hole in the wall. And so I'm grateful that, you see, that's the piece I didn't know about. But once they helped me see that my powerlessness, I was able to concede to my innermost self, every fiber of me, that I'm powerless over alcohol. I didn't question it anymore. I was real clear of my alcoholism. I'm so grateful. Well, actually, they told me alcohol and drugs, it's all the same thing. I don't believe that. I don't believe that at all. I'm grateful I got out and a sponsor shared with me. This is Alcoholics Anonymous, and we have one primary purpose, and that's to help the alcoholic. It just so happened to treat my drug addiction, and a bunch of other stuff. So I think for me, my first responsibility as a member of Alcoholics Anonymous when I'm working with someone is ask them some questions like the book talks about their drinking, so that they can see to your innermost self that they're alcoholic. I think people are dying in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous because we're not helping them to provide them with some questions or what the literature says so that they can get a clear understanding of what their disease is. So if you're in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous and you're not sure, you've been told just come anyway, or it's all the same, or if you really can't concede to your innermost self, I beg of you to talk to me after the meeting. I would love to provide you with some of the stuff the literature says, my experience, so that maybe you can look at your own experience around your drinking about what happens once you start drinking. Or grab somebody that you think maybe has an understanding. Okay, there was a little tangent, sorry. So I'm grateful I found this sponsor that took me through the steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, right? Oh, I'm going back again. In that treatment center, right, I'm powerless, my life's unmanageable, completely insane. They said, do you believe, or are you willing to believe there's something out there bigger than you that can help? And I had it's like, yes, anything. I'm willing. I don't know that I believe, but I'm willing. And after it kept moving me to the next step. And then the third step, are you ready to quit playing God? And I'm like, they had to reveal to me, like it says on pages 60 to 63, the many ways that I play God. And of course, I'm just saying yes. I don't even know if I mean it. I'm doing the assignments every night. I did I did inventory in there. I left nothing out, but the inventory was on check sheets, But you know what? It worked for me. It's certainly not the way I do inventory now. I think the willingness that kept moving me forward. Mary T says we do the steps bad until we can do them better. I shared all my inventory when I was in treatment. They sent me to my room to do that hour. I didn't know what I was doing. I just did this stuff. It's supposed to be this quiet hour. In my head, it wasn't very quiet, but I just kept moving and saying, okay, okay, okay. As I'm still actually withdrawn on that plastic mattress, sleeping at night, and you can hear the plastic. That's why when I look back, stuff was happening to me, not by me. I made the list of people I harm. I had a long amends list to make. They taught me about 10, 11, and 12. Well, that was a little different, too. They said you do step 10 at night. I don't believe that anymore. I think it's step 11. It's in the book. They told me to get out and help others. And that was my first experience with the steps. And so my experience up until today, I've worked the steps multiple times with multiple ladies. And it's been life-changing each time, and more has been revealed. I'm not saying that's what you need, but that's what I've done. I can't imagine only working them the first time, because what continues to happen is I continue to awaken. I can now look at step 1 and see where I am totally powerless over alcohol. But you know what? I'm powerless over everything. I believe there is a power that works in and through me that empowers me. In fact, the big book says there is one that has all power. Well, I like the sentence before that, actually. It says, without help, it is too much for us. I need help. I need guides. I need help from other members of Alcoholics Anonymous. But it says there is one that has all power. That one is God. May you find him now. So if that one is God, then how much power do I have? None. I think that power empowers me. It's real clear. Like page 24, I love what it says. Basically, we have lost the power of choice in drink. My so-called will power becomes practically non-existent. I can't bring into my mind with sufficient force the memory, the suffering of the humiliation of a week or a month ago. I can't bring in a past event like what it looked like when I was drinking, or maybe what it looked like in early sobriety when I'm sleeping with a man that I shouldn't be sleeping with. There we go. Let's say that. I have a little fight with God here. Let me give me a second. I can't bring into my mind with sufficient force the memory and suffering humiliation of a week or a month ago. I have to have God's help. I am without defense against the first drink. Now, what I like to do with the literature and the steps of Alcoholics Anonymous currently in my life, I like to get a current experience. And I can take that same paragraph or any of this stuff and get a current experience. See, I'm powerless. I'm powerless over changing. I'm powerless over fixing my character defects. I'm powerless over the result in prayer and meditation. I'm powerless over helping other people. Now, trust me, that power gives me a lot of power in order to be able to do it, but it is not of me. That power works through you into me. My life is unmanageable. Yes, it was unmanageable when I got here, but it's still currently unmanageable. Yes, I got some stuff, right? We get the stuff back, you know. We might get a car that runs and might have a pantry full of food, right? But what I know I try to manage now is this mind and this ick on the inside, this vibration, this restlessness, irritability, and discontentedness. I want it to stop, man. I mean, man, like this morning, like, oh, what are you going to talk about? Oh, shut, you know, and just laugh at myself. But boy, make me mad. Whoo. I haven't dealt with a person like I had to deal with a person in the last couple of months, man. Very difficult. It's been a challenge for me. It's been a great opportunity for me to seek this power. But what I'm really trying to manage is this negative mind, this judgment, this intolerance, this condescension. I'm trying to manage that, and I'm trying to manage the physical reaction I'm having, because make me mad, I'm going to have a physical reaction. And that's what I'm trying to manage. So can I concede to my innermost self today that I am powerless? Yes. I think I live in a delusion. I have power in the illusion. I'm controlling stuff often. It's much better than it was 16 years ago or last year or the year before that. And then when I get mad or whatever, or start thinking negatively, my mind is not sound about a lot of stuff. And it's another opportunity, if I can omit about step 1 and rigorous honesty, it moves me to step 2. So Belinda, do you believe, or are you willing to believe there's something out there bigger than you that can restore you to sound mind today? What's worked so far, but my ego's going to drive me and make it plan and try to, figure it out until I surrender. And once I'm willing to believe, then it moves me to step 3. But it describes me perfectly in step 60 to 63. I am still the actor trying to arrange the whole show. My motive is good. And I'm going to be kind and loving and gracious until something doesn't go my way. And then I'm going to try to push and have my own way even more. And I'm going to be egotistical, and I'm going to try to run the show. And what I'm really trying to do is steal satisfaction and happiness out of this world by managing well again. And again and again and again. Selfishness, self-centeredness is still the root of my problem. I am still, the alcoholic is an extreme example of self-will run riot, though I usually don't think so. It's not like it used to be last year. I mean, Kenny's here. He knew me when I first came in. We would go to the same meetings. I was hyper. I was, I don't even, right? And, but I've always been an extreme example of self-will run riot, though I usually don't think so. I think I can see it in all of you, though, right? I can see it in you, but I can never see it in me. In fact, the book says a solitary self-appraisal is insufficient. There's no way of entirely getting rid of self without his aid. So basically, everything in the first 3 steps is telling you, Belinda, if you don't get connected to some kind of power when you're first sober and along the way, your life might be restless, irritable, and discontent. You may not be happy, joyous, and free. The promises out of the big book may not come true. Because when I'm driven by self, it's not. That situation, I wish I could share more, but it might identify. It was really creating a lot of disturbance. It's been a long time since I woke up with a mind that was talking about what was going on over here. And as much as I didn't like it, I couldn't fix it on my own power. Thankfully, along the way, I've done many 4-steps. Sometimes, like this situation, I had to write a 4-step on it to be able to clear away the ick, my grandiosity. I mean, look, let me tell y'all, I think I know everything. I think I know how I should be, how the weather should be, the driver should be. If you want to know how you should be, come ask me, because I know, right? It might be a subject that I don't know about, and all of a sudden I'm going to give an answer. It's just crazy. I do want to speak a little bit about what principle inventory has done for me. In the book, it says we list people, institutions, and principles. And I don't know many people that talk about principle inventory. It has been life-changing for me. In fact, a lot of times what I write instead of a resentment is a principle inventory. What is a principle? I know we got spiritual principles, right? But it's a moral rule or belief that is either right or wrong and influences my actions. I don't know if it was Bob or Greg or somebody. I get the speakers mixed up when I hear the messages all weekend, but this self-esteem thing, man. I don't know that I don't feel like I'm enough, not good enough, smart enough. Heck, and sometimes I speak at these things, and a lot of times it's 2 couples and me, and I got some thoughts about that too. And but this not enough syndrome, the trance of unworthiness because I'm full of guilt, remorse, and shame, there's the principle in column 1. What causes me to believe I'm not enough? Who said so? Whose voice? Where did I hear that? I take what's happened in my experiences and then I interpret it and perceive it a certain way. When I look, 2nd grade maybe, bring your report card home and Dad says, it's not perfect because I got to be perfect. He says, you can do better. And what do you think I hear? Oh, you're not enough. And I take that and Dad, the parents, Dad, 22 years of Air Force, trust me, I got a lot of rules and, they're giving me all this information and teachers are, and they're telling me all this stuff, just trying to make me a good woman. And I'm coming up with more story behind it and I can't live up to what I think they want me to be. And so it just keeps me down here. And then you start drinking and feeling more and guilt and shame. And I can't, and this is a real deal, but what this does is, we talk about the ego, and it's not just up here and thinking I'm better than you. My ego a lot of times is way down here. Ego is edge God out. I'm either better than you or less than you. The challenge is to be right-sized, which is humble. I don't know how to do that very well. right? Can I be one among many? But that principal inventory, I can see, get an idea, you see, because I'm comparing myself. And what causes me to believe this, right? I'm comparing myself, social media. You made a better grade than me. You got more money than me, or a better looking man than me, something in this constant state. You got more recognition than me. It affects every area of my life. Well, I mean, like those abusive relationships and stuff kind of feed your soul in a negative way. It affects every area of my life. It affects my self-esteem, security, ambitions, personal relations, including sex. Trust me, sex relations, oh gosh, okay. I'm going to come back around to that, I guess, God, but let me just finish this principle stuff. But it affects my pride. And so this belief that I have about me, and it just is nonstop, the story I've created, then when I move to the column 4, where I'm looking at my mistakes, where have I been selfish? As a result of these beliefs, well, I'm making life about me. I'm going to try to control and manipulate just so you think I am enough. That's so dishonest too. I'm a lie. I might exaggerate my stories. You know, if I really don't like you, you better like me, because I'm going to have a problem with it. I think everybody should love me and like me. Boy, you want to talk about making you restless, irritable, and discontented. Worry about what people think of me. I'm self-seeking, and I'm afraid. That's the bottom line. Either I'm led in love, or I'm driven by fear. The book says I'm driven by fear, 100 forms of fear, self-delusion. My mind is deluded. Self-seeking and self-pity, poor me. I'm a nobody. I'm a this, I'm a that. And the character defects that come out just from this belief. I mean, what a state of control and manipulation. Self-righteous. You see, I think I know everything. I think I know I'm a piece of crap. I'm blessed. I've been to a lot of conferences. I get to do this frequently. I don't know if frequently is the word, but I still compare myself. I wish I could sound as good as Bob sounded last night. Maybe in another 30 years, you know what I mean? It's just always this constant state of comparison. These are what principal inventories look like to me. Last year, I wanted to throat punch a woman. I did. The short story of it is I didn't. I didn't even owe an amends, but my mind was telling me all kind of stuff. The principal inventory I wrote was, I have to protect myself and people I care about. So what happens is my belief system are going to be driving me. If I think I have to protect myself and people I care about, you can bet my character defects are going to come out, and I'm going to try to push and have my own way. There's many beliefs. The role I assigned Tommy, oh my gosh, my man should, I don't know, be more affectionate, shouldn't get mad, trust me. I mean, I don't know. How about the word marriage? If I say marriage, we all could probably write a nice little list of what we think that should look like. But what happens to me, it does not go as Belinda has planned. In my fantasy world of this magical state, I believe what it looks like. And I'm afraid Belinda's not going to get what she wants. And as a result of that, the chief activator of all my defects of character is self-centered fear. And again, I'm going to try to push and have my own way. I'm going to be selfish, dishonest, self-seeking, and frightened. I'm going to get off the principal inventory, but it was life-changing for me. Okay, it came again. So now about sex, right? I don't like talking about it, but I think it's not talked about much. My first 3 years of my sex conduct looked pretty bad. And, but what I know is I just felt so bad about me. I needed any attention. I needed someone to like me, want me. I mean, heck, the things that happened in my life, I mean, that's just what was driving me. And I'm so grateful that I had a sponsor that didn't say, Belinda, stop doing that. You're bad, you're wrong, right? The book's pretty clear. We are not the arbiter of anybody's conduct. She didn't say stay out of a relationship for a year. Couldn't happen. I got the boyfriend in the house, went to detox 2, went to the men's side of the treatment center, all that. We dated at first. But I was never without a relationship or situationship, one of those two things the first 3 years. But my soul sickness was so great, any attention was better than no attention. Somebody was better than nobody. And but I had a sponsor, and she kept having me do the work and continue to look at this stuff and continue to go to God about it. You know, there's a one fear prayer, one resentment prayer, and the book uses words about these resentment must be mastered. You know why? Because they're deadly, poison, kills, destroys more alcoholics than anything else. They're infinitely grave. We're talking about a resentment. It's pretty doggone bad. It even says if we don't master this resentment, we can drink over it. And there is one resentment prayer in that section of the book. Fear is the evil and corroding thread. Everything about me is afraid. There's one fear prayer. But in the sex portion, do you know there are 3 prayers? The first one says we pray about each, we ask God to mold our ideals and help us live up to them. The inventory revealed some truth for me and revealed to me where I've gotten against my morals and values. That I didn't want to be that woman, but I was powerless. I didn't know another way to live. And even though it was offered to me, the ick was inside. You see, because the second prayer says we pray about each specific matter, and then it says the right answer will come if you want it. I didn't want it. I wanted him. Oh, not that one. Okay, so there's a newcomer too. I despise people who dated newcomers. Bad, you shouldn't kill people, until he walked in. I didn't tell my sponsor right away. I waited until after we hooked up, and then I talked to her, and we both stayed sober through it, But basically I had nothing to give. I had nothing to offer. I was still a taker. Then the third prayer is, I'm going to demolish this one a little bit. It says, we earnestly pray for the right idea about each questionable situation, for sanity. I was not of sound mind about my conduct. And for guidance in each, questionable situation. I demolish that. Go figure. 2 of the prayers are on page 69, one of them's on 70. I learned how to pray out of the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. There's many, many prayers in there. Those 3 prayers I just said can be used in any area of my life, right? But I'm grateful that along the way I was taught that we can still, all of this stuff blocks me from God. The throat punch woman, as I call her, blocks me from God, blocks me from you. If I'm blocked from God, it blocks me from you. And then I'm grateful every time I was taught, in the book there's some question, well, share it with somebody. I've got inventory of my mind that is, actually around the world. Because there's certain things, as long as it doesn't harm anybody, there's a lot of inventory. I'm like, you want to see what this looks like for me? But that inventory, I want to be fully authentic and transparent because I still can't see it. My mind can't fix my mind with my mind. I need to have somebody help me see it from an entirely different angle, entirely. Not my part, it's entirely. See some possibility, give me hope. And after we share it with someone, right, it does help get rid of the ick on the inside. But there's a whole hour, the book says, returning home when you find a place where you can sit quiet for an hour, reviewing what we have done. There's a couple of prayers in there. And I look at the first 5 steps and see if my work is solid so far, because this moves me to step 6. It helps me see what is objectionable. I don't want to be that woman in the 4th column or in my conduct inventory. I don't want to be that woman so afraid. It moves me to step 6, and some of it I want to hang on to it, even currently. You mean to let go of control? By the way, We're having a Super Bowl. You're not invited. I'm just sharing this experience. We're having a business Super Bowl party at my house in New Orleans today. And for me to let go of control and let Tommy's assistant and employees take care of it all. I mean, one time I was like, this is my house too, and like I'm not real comfortable about everybody coming in and making all the decisions. I swear. I love hanging on to some delusion of control and illusion, right? And it did. It took me a couple of days, and I don't know, it's going to be perfect when I get there. You know what? It's all set up. I don't have to do anything. And I go in and I get to change, and people will start showing up about an hour after. But when I tell you I like hanging on to that stuff. So anyway, I can even, I have to look at step 6 in a daily life as well, which moves me to step 7 so that I can continue to go to God and humbly ask Him again and again and again. I love how the big book uses stuff like, it mentions so many times about beginning, right? That we just got to make this beginning, and then we just got to continue. I don't know how many times, if you want to count, let me know, but my goodness, it talks about new attitude, new outlook, new relationship. The word new is mentioned so many times. And that's what keeps happening to me every time I continue to venture in this process. It works out perfectly imperfect. I made a list of a lot of people I've harmed at the beginning, and through the years I've harmed a lot of people. I've had to make amends. Heck, early sobriety, making amends to another person in sobriety, and we're texting an amends. Before it's over, I'm saying F you, she's saying F you. So they, when I'm trying to do it from the intellect, or because I just don't like the fact that she doesn't like me, it doesn't go over very well. But thankfully that hasn't happened in a long time now. But I do want to share about 2 of the amends. When my niece died, I knew I owed her amends. I had that inventory coming out of treatment. I just didn't make it yet because I had only been out of treatment a week or so, or a couple of weeks. And a year after, for the celebration of her life, the family got together, and somebody says, hey, let's write little notes on the helium balloons and tie them up and send them up. But what came to me at the moment was, I just wrote real small. I just said, Chastity, I owe you an amends. Something like I was wrong for drinking and drugging with you. I was wrong for not being a good aunt, leading by example, whatever. And that note, it didn't come from me. It just wrote in there that with God's help, I will spend the rest of my life trying to help other people so that they don't die like you. And how does it happen that I have a desire and a passion inside of me to help people so that they don't die like her? The other one, oh man, y'all ever had to do stupid stuff in Alcoholics Anonymous? I had to do a lot of stupid stuff. So when I was in that treatment center, I did a resentment on my dad, checklist. Yes, he molested me. He did this, and this. Okay, no big deal. My dad was a good dad and treated me good. That was the belief I had, right? I'm a survivor. I need to believe he's a good dad and treating me good. In fact, my dad gave me my first year chip. My dad was very passionate about Alcoholics Anonymous, helping other people, and the traditions, like no chanting. I mean, he was pretty, but I'm grateful because he did teach me a lot of stuff, right? And so he died when I was 1.5 years sober. And then 3 years sober, I'm going through the steps. Actually, I came to this town. A woman brought 2 people, me and another lady, through the steps in 2 weekends. And she says, Belinda, no, I went through all the steps, sorry. And then, of course, I would always bring everything to my sponsor and let her know everything, right? And my sponsor says, Belinda, why don't you write out a resentment on your dad? I'm like, we ain't even talking about dad. I just I mean, it was just 2 weeks before I did all of it with this, okay. And you know what happened? My dad, at 3 years sober, turned into the biggest ass ever. He was mean. He never showed up in my sporting stuff. He was mean to Mom and whipped us and beat us and molested me and right. I mean, it was all negative. And I said, oh, this is the truth. This is the truth. You see, I think I know everything. I thought I knew that was the truth. Fast forward, I'm 11 years sober. I'm going through the steps with another woman, one of my sponsees of over 30 years. Not talking about my dad. And you know what she tells me? She said, Belinda, she said, I really think you need to write out an amends letter to your dad. What? What are you talking about? How do I do? I made amends to him. I made amends to him before he died. Now, let me just make it clear. I did not make amends to him for him molesting me, but I had caused a lot of other harm, right? So I made amends for the harm that I caused before he died. And I'll just let you know, people ask me all the time, did your dad make amends to you? The answer is no. I don't know. Apparently he didn't have to stay sober, but apparently I needed to stay sober. So anyway, she asked me to do this. I'm thinking, this is stupid. And I'm like, how do I do that? She said, Belinda, with the information you have now about yourself. And she said, just do it prayerfully. And I'm here to tell you that was one of the most spiritual experiences I've ever had. And in that letter, a lot of stuff came out, but in a general way, I'm going to share that there was this visual that I could get of my dad, and I can see the darkness in his soul, but yet the light was screaming to get out. My dad actually was doing that after he got sober. And it's a great reminder that just because we get sober doesn't mean we get well. And so in that letter, I said, even though I hated it, I thanked him. Because that experience helps me help a lot of people in Alcoholics Anonymous. I don't know how to help people with trauma, but what I do have is some experience, strength, and hope to share, right? So how can what happened to me be wrong? What happened to me and all this stuff, right? It helped me, gave me a desire to be able to seek a power. But in there, it was one of the most spiritual experiences I've ever had. And I even thought, I was like, oh, this is the truth, God. This is the truth right here. And then the next thought came, well, maybe not. You know, I'm so grateful for the stupid stuff. Step 10, I mean, I've done it different ways through the year, but it's really clear in the book that this is I'm supposed to watch throughout my day for when my selfishness, dishonesty, fear, and resentment's going to crop up, because it's going to. Fear, right? And it says in there, continued 4 times. There's 2 prayers in step 10. I'm grateful that there's prayers in there. And it reminds me to share it with someone and then turn my thoughts into someone I can help. That's the whole deal. I've got to fit myself to be of maximum service to God and my fellows. You know, I can even be in a meeting, oh, Joe shares again. Y'all got an old Joe in your meeting, the same old God Joe talking about the problem. And I catch myself and I'm judgmental. Oh, you're Joe? Sorry, Joe. And right then, when I realize that I have a judgment, it's a great opportunity to pause and take a look at myself, right? And to be able to ask God to remove that. The nightly review, I've done all kind of ways. It doesn't say write it. And by the way, well, I'm not even going to go there. It doesn't say write it, but I've written it. I've just done it in some quiet time. One of the things about a nightly review is I'm really trying to check to see how well I did step 10. When I leave here this afternoon, just to let you know, I'm going to speed on the way home, and it's dishonest, okay? But it's not objectionable to me, just to let you know. What is a ticket. So the nightly review is really, because I don't know if I'm not watching for these things to come up, I'm not even awake enough to know things have gotten bad, right? I'm trying now, currently, to watch for the small stuff. I don't have the big stuff very often. It is that tricky small stuff that my ego is going to say, no big deal. Didn't bother me. I'm going to intellectualize it. I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to come up with a good plan. But this is a way to be able to try to watch for when I got off that lit path. I love prayer and meditation. I'm grateful for Gwen. Oh my God, she was so passionate about it, and she loved other spiritual books, right? And, you know, so many people I talked to. Remember that belief system I was talking about? I hear a lot of people say I can't meditate, right? You don't have to raise your hand, but I bet you there's a lot of people, well, some, maybe. See, I think I know everything. It's possible there's some people in here that believe they can't meditate. And if that's the truth, chances are you're not meditating. And if you are, please come tell me, because I would love to be wrong. You don't have to do this with me, but if you want to, if you just close your eyes for a second and just take a deep breath in and breathe in love. And breathe out fear. Breathe in love. And breathe out fear. Breathe in love. And breathe out fear. Now just open your eyes. And I just want you to feel this room. I don't know if you feel it, but I feel there's been a shift in the energy in here. And if you think you can't meditate, you just did. There's thousands of ways to meditate. My first meditation was just exactly that for 1 minute. My mind was still talking to me, but it was an opportunity to go back to the breath of the word. It's transformed over the years. But if I'm so, step 11 says, sought through prayer and meditation to improve my conscious contact with God. I need a new mind, people. Praying only for knowledge of His will and the power to carry it out, because remember, I'm powerless. And through this journey, that GOD was good orderly direction that I didn't know that was going to work, that has transpired over the years. If you have a problem with the word God, like I had one, you get to choose your own conception. In fact, in the chapter We Agnostics alone, plus other times in the book, but in We Agnostic, Bill Wilson uses over 20 times different terms or phrases to describe a power greater than himself. Creative intelligence, creator, power, mystery, many, many words. But I'm grateful I had a sponsor that really led me to do that. I don't sleep well. I suffer from chronic pain. I deal with it every day. But I used to get really aggravated when I wake up between 2 and 4 in the morning and can't go back to sleep. And now I'm like, okay, God. And it gives me an opportunity to spend a lot of quiet time just reading and looking at this literature and looking at other spiritual books and asking myself some questions. What does this stuff say? What does this stuff mean? Is this my experience? What is this literature or this spiritual whatever I'm trying to interpret? What is it inviting me to do? And it is intellect coming in, but I want to be able to take that to be able to try and apply it in my life. Like steps 12 says, to practice these principles, these spiritual principles of love and honesty. I mean, to live like the St. Francis prayer says. Step 12, it says, what does it say? Give me the first 2 words. Thank you. Having had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps. Not as a result, as the result of these steps. I've had a spiritual awakening every time I've worked the steps. I watch others have spiritual awakenings when they work the steps. Haven't had a spiritual... And I'm going to try to practice these spiritual principles and help other alcoholics recover from alcoholism. But I need that power in order to do it. I need your experience to share with me. I'm just going to say one last thing about meditation. There's thousands of ways to meditate. If you like music, if it reaches your soul, then sit quietly and listen to a song that's going to fill your soul in a positive way. Ask somebody what they do for meditation. There's all kind of apps out there. I had to do a lot of guided stuff. And we agnostics, it says it beg of you to lay aside your prejudices about meditation or anything. Again, I'm just so thankful for Alcoholics Anonymous, the healing and transformation it has taken place in my life. They say don't leave before the miracle happens, but I'm here to say one of the biggest miracles that have happened for me is to work with other people and watch miracles start happening in their life and them and their life change and the light of God come on and watch them help other people to be reborn. It is an experience we must not miss. But if you're in the rooms, whether you're new or you've been around for a long time and you've got some ick on the inside, I promise you there is a solution. Grab onto someone and ask. Bob mentioned it last night, how many people kill themselves, drink again. I don't know when it's going to be. But when I have an ick on the inside, I just pray that I'm going to have the courage to be able to share that with someone so that they can help me get back. They can be the lantern that carries me to the light, to continue to awaken my soul. I love it. I always go blank and have nothing else to share. Thank y'all for having me.
All right, thanks again, Belinda. That was great. Thank you.